Check, check. 1, 2, check 1, 2. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Improve Guitar episode. I don't know, sometimes I call it that. Thanks for clicking on the video. Today we're going to be going over the A minor chord and how do you play it. And I have good news for you. If you've kind of followed along how we've posted at least, your last chord should have been the E major chord. And if that's your last chord and you've nailed this, this might be the easiest chord for you because it's essentially the same chord. And we'll show you why here in a second. But before we keep going, I want to remind you to tune up your guitar. If you haven't tuned already, hit pause and tune it up. If you need a video on how to do that without a tuner, there's your video. Other than that, get an app, download an app, spend a couple bucks. There's some free ones even. And just make sure your guitar is in tune and then push play again and we'll keep going. Welcome back from tuning your guitar. I'm assuming you paused and tuned. Maybe you didn't. But today, again, we're going to be going over the A minor chord. And so let me throw that up for you right here. Bam. Bam. There is your A minor chord, and some things to make note of for this chord is if you look at the shape of it, it is very, very, very similar, almost pretty much identical to your E major chord. It's just on different strings. So if you've figured out your E major chord and you've been practicing that, you're going to be able to nail this one. So let's go ahead and look at how many fingers we're going to be using first. You'll see there's three black dots on your chord chart. So that means you got 3 different fingers. Your number 1 finger, your number 2 finger, and your number 3 finger. Those 3 fingers, which is awesome. If you need a refresher on chord charts, there's a link right there on how to read these chord charts so you can just learn whatever chord you feel like learning. So there's 3 fingers. And we'll notice the double lines at the top below the AM. That is this nut here. And there is an X over your E string, an O over your A string, and an O over your high E string. So quick reminder, an X means we're not playing that string at all. So this string here, this E string, we're not playing that at all for this chord. So go ahead and forget it's there. And then the next string, the A string right here, which is this tuning peg, we're going to play, but it's going to be open. So it'll sound like this. And there's your A string. And then your high E string, your very first string down at the bottom here, is going to be open as well. So those will sound like that. Awesome. So let's go ahead and try to find where our fingers are going to go on this chord chart here. Let's start with our first finger. Our first finger looks like it goes on the 1st fret. So there's your 1st fret. So it'll go slightly behind that on your 2nd string from the bottom. So here's 1 string, 2. So that's going to go right there. And that's going to sound like this. Here it is with no finger down. And here's with a finger down. Good. So now let's get our 2nd finger, our middle finger, and looks like that one's going to go on the 2nd fret. So 1, 2. So just behind this 2nd fret on the 4th string from the bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to go right there. So why don't you go ahead and put that there. Wait. Yeah, there you go. And that one is going to sound like this. So now we have this. Good. So now let's get our 3rd finger, or our ring finger. That's going to go on the 2nd fret as well. 1, 2. Just below this 2nd finger. So 1 string below it, the 3rd string from the bottom. 1, 2, 3. Right there. And should sound like this. Alright, so we are in a place where we can go ahead and strum this chord and see what it sounded like for our first try. Remember, we're not playing this E string at all. So if you're using your thumb, get your thumb, or if you're using a pick, get your pick and place that on top of your A string. And we'll go ahead and strum that and see what it's supposed to sound like. Boom. I don't know why this chord always reminds me of mariachi music, which is excellent music. I don't know. I've never heard bad mariachi. Maybe it's out there, but I've never heard it. So that's what we should be hearing right now if we're playing the chord correctly. And if you're not hearing that sound, a couple things should be going on. First thing, maybe you decided you didn't need to tune. Pause, tune, rewind, do it again. It'll sound awesome. So that's one possibility, but I believe in you guys. I think you probably tuned. So number 2, we could have some fingers hitting other strings, or we could have bad finger placement. So let's start with our first finger again. If you need to, go ahead and shake out your hand. Give your fingertips a break. Then we'll get our first finger, and we'll go ahead and put that right where it goes. And to remind you of placement of this finger, we're going to put it right pretty close to on top of that fret, just behind that fret. So you have to use the least amount of pressure, and there'll be the least amount of finger pain. So there's your motivation to play it right, because you won't have to play as hard. Some things that might be happening here, if you're getting a buzz, if you're getting a buzz or something like that, or like this. So a buzz, you're probably too far close to the nut here. And if it's sounding more muted, you might need to press a little harder, so get closer to that fret and press down with your fingertip there. One of the problems with this finger that you might encounter is if you're playing flat or with the pad of your finger, you're going to end up muting this high E string right here. So you might have you might have your first finger right, but then try to play the E below it, and that might not ring out. And that's because we're just playing on the pad of our finger. We need to kind of put it on the fingertip and round out our hand a little bit so we can play both of those. Good. So now let's take the second finger and put that where it goes, right there. And we'll go ahead and try to pluck that one. Some of the issues you could encounter with this one is if you're playing flat like this, you might be hitting your A string at the top. So your A string, your A string might sound like this. And that probably means your middle finger or your second finger right here is touching that string. So go ahead and make sure you get on that on that fingertip, and you get that finger closer to the fret. And then try to play the A and the D string until you get it ringing out. Good. And now we get our third finger. We're going to place it just under this second finger right here, close to this fret. So the third finger is going to be the closest finger to the fret. So get that as close as you can, and then butt your second finger up right next to that finger so it doesn't have too much space to go either. Go ahead and pluck that string. It should sound like that. And one of the issues you could have, kind of like your first finger, if you're playing a little too flat like that, then you're going to mute your B string below it. So we got to make sure we're on our fingertip. Even so, and the hand a little rounder. So make sure there's even room to put your finger kind of under that finger. That's a good way to gauge if you have enough space there. So it should sound like this. And now we're good to strum this chord again to see if we got it right. So why don't you go ahead and strum it once, and then go through and pick each note by itself. Go ahead and strum that again. And that is our A minor chord and how it should sound. Now, if your A minor chord doesn't sound like that, I want to encourage you just to keep troubleshooting it. Get your hand in the right position, and pluck each string individually. And when you get to a string that's not ringing out correctly, just go ahead and look and diagnose what's going on and adjust your hand accordingly until you got it right. And if your hand's getting tired or your fingertips are hurting, take a little break, shake out your hand, watch another video of something, and come back and let's try it again. And like I said, if you were with us for our E chord, keep your fingers exactly like this and put each finger up one string and play all the strings, and that is your E chord. So it's the exact same shape, which is awesome. So if you haven't learned your E chord, move everything up one string, play all the strings, and it's kind of a 2-for-1 deal. You can learn your E minor or your E major and your A minor chord. It's pretty awesome. All right, guys. Well, that's it for our lesson today. I hope that is helpful for you. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them in the comments, and I will do my best to get back to you. And hey, thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and hey, keep practicing. You got this. You can do this. Do not give up. I believe in you. All right, see you next time. Bye.